So I want to tell you a story. The story starts one November morning at 7 a.m. as we're boarding a plane at Orlando International Airport. Me and my fiance are going to Chicago. And so in typical fashion, we all get crammed into this plane. We finally find our seats. And I turn to my newfound seatmate and I say, wow, I guess I wasn't the only one that got a good deal on this flight. And so she says to me, yeah, I paid $170 round trip. And I thought to myself, wow, I paid a lot less than that. I knew I was onto something. And so what I found is that by using various strategies and technology, I've actually found a way to travel almost anywhere at a fraction of the cost others pay. And so that's what I want to share with you today. In fact, I want to share with you 3 ways that you can travel at the lowest possible price. The first way is talking all about flexibility, and it's maintaining flexibility in your travel plans, your dates, airports, things like that. Second, I want to cue you into some technology and websites and apps that you can use to make good travel decisions. So how are you going to know if the price that you're looking at is good? I'll show you how. Finally, I want to explain to you some cost-saving alternatives. So to some of those typical travel-related expenses that are so expensive, like rental cars and hotels. And so what are some alternatives and maybe the sharing economy that we can use? We'll talk about that a little later. But first, let's talk about the easiest way that you can reduce one of the biggest costs having to do with your travel. And that's your airfare. You know, Consumer Reports, which is one of the leading not-for-profits that talks about price transparency, they themselves say that airfares could vary considerably for flights just hours apart or for crosstown airports. So with that being said, you'll get the best price if you're flexible about where you fly from and where you fly to. That's really going to help you get the best price. And with that being said, you need to learn your airport codes of all your surrounding airports, both where you're going to and where you're coming from. And we're going to talk about how technology makes decisions a little bit easier and how those airport codes really kind of key into that in a couple minutes. But one of the biggest things that I would say, as outside of knowing your airports and really being flexible, is not fear flying midweek, right? So some of the best flights that you can get are found on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, even Sundays. And so you can't be afraid of flying at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because think about supply and demand, right? Most people want to fly early in the morning, or most people want to fly after work. And is it really that big of a deal if you save hundreds of dollars? That's what we're talking here. Next, you want to maintain flexibility with your travel dates. And so we talked a little about that with travel days, but let's talk about dates. So say that you really need to go from the 1st into the 15th, or you really need to go from Saturday to Sunday. Well, if you were able to use some technology, again, something we're going to talk about in a couple of days, to realize you could save hundreds of dollars just by moving it by 7 to 10 days, could you do it? That is one of the key ways to making sure you get the best price when it comes to flights and your travel plans, is by being opportunistic about when airlines need you the most. And let's be honest, no one uses travel agents anymore. So one of the key ways that you're going to be successful in traveling on a budget is by using search engines and apps. And one of my favorite technologies that I use constantly is called Google Flights. And the reason why Google Flights is so important is because it actually shows you a calendar of all the flights with every major airline out of any of your arriving and departing airports of your choosing. And so this is huge. Using the information we just talked about before about knowing your airport codes, now you can create any kind of combinations out there. You'll know whether or not you're choosing the best airport at the best date to get the best price. Even more than Google Flights, by signing up for airline rewards programs, they'll key you into some of their own sales. So I'll give you an example. Spirit and Frontier, they're 2 budget airlines out there. They do an annual 99% off sale. It only lasts for 1 day, and it's only if you're signed up and through the email that you'll even know about it. How much could that save you on your next flight? One application that I love is called Skiplagged. And so what Skiplagged does is it allows you to actually just fly segments of an entire flight. And so here's why that's important. Say, for instance, you wanted to get from Orlando to Houston, right? But a direct flight is $500. Well, what Skiplagged will do is actually show you a flight for $350 that goes from Orlando to, say, New York and stops over in Houston. Well, why is it cheaper? Because airlines realize that a layover is not desirable. And so a lot of times they'll greatly discount those flights. You don't care though, because you're still getting from Orlando to Houston. You're just not flying the final area onto New York. Awesome, right? Saving $150 right there. So along with Skiplagged, another awesome feature with them is they actually show you a bar graph of your destination airport, your arrival airport, and where you're coming from, and they actually show you when the best time to book is. So if you can look out 30 days in advance, you can see trends on when all the major airlines are starting to reduce their costs. So can you be flexible? You know, it's important. One of the last technology tools that I'll talk about here in this section is going to be related to a website called Priceline. And the reason why Priceline is so important is because a lot of times airlines will sell their last minute fares, their last minute seats of an almost full plane to companies like this. And so Priceline takes advantage of that. They have something called the Name Your Own Price tool. And so we've already known by using something like Google Flights and by using Skiplagged what the normal price is, and you can save up to 40% if you name your own price using Priceline. But there's a catch. Once you name your price, you have to be prepared to buy. And it could be any variation of nearby airports, any variation of time, and possibly even a variation of a couple different dates. So here's the trick to still get all the things you want and get the best price. Your bank in particular offers on your credit card many times a virtual card. And so set that up before you do your name your own price on Priceline, and you'll actually be able to set that limit to say $20. And so when your Priceline deal goes through, Priceline will decline your card, unfortunately, because, hey, you don't have enough to pay for it, but they'll show you all your travel itinerary before you put your real card number to book. How awesome is that? Not only do you get your cake, you get to eat it too. Finally, we want to talk about losing some traditional values. So far, we talked about being flexible, maintaining flexibility, how important it is to not be stuck to airports and dates and hours in which you fly. And we talked about how we're going to use technology to make the best decisions. Now, finally, I'm asking you to do one last thing to get the best price, and that is lose your traditionalist values. There is a life outside of a Marriott hotel and outside of a Hertz rent-a-car. I promise you. It's called the sharing economy. And so here's what Statista had to say about the sharing economy. They did a survey in 2016 of young adults 18 years or older, and they said that 44.8 million adults in the US are currently using sharing economy services like Airbnb and Uber. And they indicated that by 2021, that will actually be at 86.5 million. That's almost doubled. And so why does the sharing economy matter? Because shared rooms and shared cars offer dramatic discounts. They don't care that there's a convention going on in the city. They don't care that this might be a big weekend. These are real people with real items, and they're gonna give you the best deal that they possibly can. So in line with that, when you're looking at travel plans, really consider, do I need a car? Could I use an Uber to get around the city where I need to go? Or could I use public transit? That's a great way to cut down some of the cost. Finally, if you use shared car services like Zipcar or Turo, they will actually allow you to do rides for as little as a couple hours. You can take a car out of town for a couple hours, or you can even rent it for as little as 1 day. So we've shared 3 major ways in which you can be budget conscious. And so here's what I want you to do next time you travel. I want you to take my budget challenge. And so how do you take the budget challenge? First, we need to maintain flexibility with our travel dates and our times and our airports and all that stuff. Second, we need to use the power of the internet and apps to make the best decisions out there. And finally, we need to ditch those traditionalist values because those aren't saving us any money. Use sharing services like Uber and like Airbnb to reduce those costs dramatically. And I know that if you implement these 3 strategies, that you too will become the budget Jedi master when it comes to travel. And really, at the end of the day, you will be living what the famous line from Confucius says, which says, wherever you will go, go with all your heart. Thank you.